The Propcast on the Sports Gambling Podcast Network is brought to you by the SGPN merch store. Use promo code SGPNBA to get 10% off of everything in the SGPN store. Welcome, everyone, to the Propcast, part of the Sports Gambling Podcast Network. It is Thursday, April 20th, currently 12:29. Let's just say 12:30 on the East Coast. Here to talk about some more player props for the NBA playoffs on Thursday night. We'll recap some player performances that we saw last night. But joining me, as usual, to help me break it down on the player props, the newest co-host with me on the Propcats, it's Chris, Crispy Cabin. Chris, what's going on, my man?
What's up, Munaf? How you doing, man? I'm doing pretty good. It wasn't the greatest day yesterday. I kind of feel like we had a little regression on some of the player props, even though we did hit a couple, but always looking to kind of bounce back. And, like I say all the time, man, the NBA season is a present. It's a gift for us every single day. So I wake up every day knowing that, I got some basketball to watch. I'm going to be entertained, and I'm always excited about that. So I'm doing great, Munaf. How about yourself? How you doing today, my brother?
Not too bad, man. I mean, you mentioned it. We had some great game, or I will say one competitive game last night in the association. But I finally had a good night as far as our player props. When I know last week I had 2 nights where I went 1-3. I like being transparent. Last night bounced back with a 3-1 night. But both you and I, we cashed on our double best bet yesterday. We backed Drew Holiday in different ways. He had a big game for the Milwaukee Bucks last night. I want to say he finished up with 24, 11 and some odd. Let me pull up the exact numbers for Drew Holiday.
11 and 5, I want to say. I think it was 5 rebounds to go with those 11 assists.
Yeah. So I know I was on the points and assists last night at 28.5. I got a little nervous last night, Chris, because I think like an hour after you and I got done recording the pod, that Giannis popped up as upgraded to questionable, but then the line adjusted to at least a points and assists for Drew Holiday around 25.5. And then I think 30, 40 minutes before the game, they said Giannis was not going to be playing last night. But I thought either way last night, Chris, that even if Giannis was in or out of the lineup, I just thought it was a good spot for the Milwaukee Bucks to come out and take care of business. And they did that in that first quarter. It was really led by Drew Holiday, Brook Lopez, Chris Middleton, and those guys. LeBron got over his rebounds and assists I took last night. And also, God, who's my third player prop? Anthony Edwards, steals and blocks. He got over that. That was a nice plus price. Only one that fell short for me was Joker last night. He fell, I think, 4 counting stats short of getting over that rebounds and assists last night. But turned out to be a pretty good night for me. I know you had a great week last week, regressed a little bit yesterday, Chris. But hey, look, we're going to bounce back here tonight, my man.
Absolutely. Let's do it,
Last night, we could kind of recap. I think there's just, outside of what I just talked about with the Bucks last night, Chris, I mean, there were the 2 performances last night. It wasn't that late game last night, was Anthony Edwards and Jamal Murray. I mean, Jamal Murray looked like that guy, bubble Jamal Murray last night, where he dropped 40 for the Denver Nuggets. Anthony Edwards had a great game as well. He dropped 41 for them. As far as points, production, those were the 2 guys that really stood out. But of the 3 games last night, Chris, anything else that kind of stuck out to you that we should shout out as far as player performances, or maybe guys that we should be looking at for the rest of the series on their props or anything like that stood out to you?
Let's see, I'm thinking about that. So I think one thing, just for the viewers, I think moving forward, when you find these teams in these desperate spots, it's probably, it will be profitable to find a player on the team that's winning the series or the team that's not as desperate and fading that player. So yesterday, I think about D'Angelo Russell. He came out, had a really, really good game 1. And then he flies under all his numbers last night. Same thing with Anthony Davis, right? We know that the Lakers win when they play motivated. And when they don't, if I said, hey, if I'm a fade Anthony Davis tonight, I'm going to take his under 40.5 points, rebounds, and assists. And you say, well, Chris, Xavier Tillman's the only guy that they have of size, right? You probably try to talk me off of that bet, but it's really about motivation. If I think even with Jimmy Butler, I talked about Jimmy Butler under 40.5 points, rebounds, and assists yesterday. both of those big, star guys go under, I think a lot of it, they're fine with going back to moving the series as long as it's 1-1, like they're not going to exert everything. So I think that's an angle that I'll be targeting. I actually got a player prop tonight that kind of, targets that specific angle because I think it is profitable no matter what the numbers say all the time.
Yeah, Grammy, last night, I think the one you mentioned, Jimmy Butler, that he only got 12 shot attempts up last night. I know it was a blowout, but that he probably didn't play a lot of that fourth quarter. I think he only played like 28 minutes last night, but I think that's a guy that should be getting 20 shot attempts at minimum, especially without Tyler Hero in that lineup. So that series now tied up 1-1. They'll head back to South Beach, and so we'll see what happens at that point. And if we really see Giannis, I don't think they really need him yet. If they lose game 3, you'll see him in game 4 for sure. But I think if I was the Bucks, I would probably still hold him out for another game, especially the way the guys did play last night for the Milwaukee Bucks. But yeah, those are kind of the performance that did stand out. We'll get into more of our player props here tonight. But before we do that, let me tell everyone about Underdog Fantasy. We're brought to you by Underdog Fantasy, and the NBA and NHL playoffs are here. And what better way to get down on some player prop parlays than over at Underdog Fantasy? Besides daily NHL, NBA, and MLB games, they've also already got NFL best ball drafts with a guaranteed $500,000 in prizes. Head over to UnderdogFantasy.com and use promo code SGPN for a 100% deposit bonus of up to $100. That's UnderdogFantasy.com, promo code SGPN. All right, Chris, let's give out some more winners, hopefully, for the 3-game schedule here tonight. We've got the game 3 between the Warriors and the Kings. We've got the Suns and the Clippers. And then we have, God damn, who's the third game? I can't believe I'm forgetting already after who I we did the NBA for this morning. Sixers and Nets, the 3 games here tonight. Kick us off. What do you got? Player prop number 1.
Player prop number 1, we're going order like I always do, right? Like this in the first game first. It's typically how I handicap the games. So actually, I like this game a lot. I like a side in this game, but as far as player props, I'll give out a role player. I think we've been going to role players and they've been pretty successful for us. I'm looking at Royce O'Neal, man. I like Royce O'Neal, back against the wall. That's super desperation spot. You don't want to go down 0-3, although I do think that they lose the game. I just think that he plays a little bit better, right? Somebody has to step up outside of Mikal Bridges and Cam Johnson. I heard the rumblings that maybe Cam Thomas is activated off that bench, but I like Royce O'Neal. He's a Swiss Army knife for this team. Rebounds plus points, rebounds, and assists over 15.5. Plus 102. So I like that you can get it at plus money on Bet Rivers as well. A lot of the books don't have it at plus money. So over the course of these 2 games so far, if he's averaging just 14 points, rebounds, and assists in the series, in the first 2 games, but he has only shot 2 for 11 from the field in both games collectively. 2 for 3 from the field in game 1, and 2 for 11 in game 2. So only 2 for 12 from the 3-point line as well. I think we see some aggression there. I think they play with a sense of urgency. He's also going to be out there. I think his minutes go up as well. He is, on the smaller side, but one of the small guys that they use to try to guard Joel Embiid also. So I just think, his rebounds plus assists, he's been cashing that number. I think he's been sitting at like 7.5. He's had 9 in back-to-back games. Yeah. But I expect him to pick it up a little bit on the offensive end. So I'll go Royce O'Neal over 15.5 points, rebounds, and assists, as my first prop of the day and a super big motivational spot for Royce O'Neal and the Brooklyn Nets tonight.
Yeah, I mean, you take a look at least the first 2 games that happened in Philly. Just didn't have shooting, especially in game 2 where he did the shot attempts. He was 2 of 11, right? But he was only all 9 of those 11 shots came from beyond the 3-point line for Royce O'Neal. So now being back at home where he's probably a little more comfortable. We talk about it in the playoffs that role players, I should say, step up. Their game gets a little bit more elevated when they're on their home floor. So I think that we'll see here that tonight with the Nets. And again, it has to be from the get-go for this Nets team if they want a chance to even win this game here tonight. But I think that for Royce O'Neal, we know that he's going to get the minutes. We did see them go to a smaller lineup, especially in that second half, I believe, did the Brooklyn Nets without Nick Claxton on the floor. So we know that he's going to get the minutes. And again, the production has been there for Royce O'Neal as well. So definitely can get behind Royce O'Neal here tonight for the Brooklyn Nets. Prop, I'm going to I'll say the same game. Another scenario where if it's not broken, don't try to fix it. Another role player here, Cam Johnson, over 2.5 3-point shots made here tonight. Chris, I took this on what was it today's Thursday, so I took it on Tuesday night as well. And he got there fairly easily. I thought Cam Johnson would have a big game. He did. And he's been number one getting the minutes for the Brooklyn Nets as well. And shooting it efficiently as well. He's averaging 23 points in the first two games of this series. He's got 19 shots in the first games of this series. And from the 3-point game one, 4 of 6 from 3-point line, and then from in game two, 5 of 11. It's still lifted at 2.5. I think that he can definitely get over this number. Like to talk about role players elevating their game at home. I think Cam Johnson, game one, played 27 minutes. Game two, played 41 minutes. Shot volume will be there. Minutes will be there for him as well. So I'm going to stay with it. If it's not broken, don't try to fix it. Give me Cam Johnson over 2.5 3-point shots here made tonight, Chris.
Love it, Munaf. Love that look. He's also one of the guys, Munaf, that can create his own shot. Like they don't have a lot of guys that can, create his own shot. He also likes to get out and run in transition. Coach Vaughn wants this team to get out, run in transition, and shoot a lot of threes. That's the one thing he mentioned after game one and game two. He wants this team to push if they can secure a rebound. He wants to push as much as they possibly can and shoot as many threes as they possibly can. So that makes really, really well with your Cam Johnson over 2.5 threes. I like that look, man.
All right, man. Take us over to player prop number 2. What do you got?
All right, so let's stay in the same game. I'm actually going to go opposite side now, and this is something that I did the other day. I don't think I gave this play out on the show, but I gave it out a little bit later after doing some more digging. And I'm going the opposite side. I'm taking the under for the Philadelphia 76ers. I'm looking at James Harden specifically. Harden under 19.5 points. Best number you can get is a -115 on Bet365 at the current time right now, because I literally just looked these up. So 23 points, in that first game, in game one. He had 7 threes in that game. And you see him come spiraling right back down to life in game two, right? Yeah. Just 8 points on 2 for 8 shooting. He shot 3 for 13, 2 for 8 from 3, I'm sorry, and 3 for 13 shooting overall. He's yet to shoot a free throw. I think that's also important to mention.
That's crazy.
Yet to shoot a free throw in this series. And quite simply, I think he's lost a step, right? The Harden that you're used to being down there in Houston, that we can't turn back the hands of time anymore, man. And I think, he's going to continue to kind of struggle with the big guards also. The Nets, they lack, perimeter defenders, right? But they have really good wings, right? When we talk about defenders like Dorian Finney-Smith and, Mikal Bridges. So I think they slow Harden down. I think, he does a lot of the rip-throughs to get to the rim and, is looking for foul calls. But I don't think we necessarily see it a lot tonight. I also think the Sixers more so rely on their defense. And, the 3-point shooting from the Nets will be erratic. So I don't think the Sixers have to score a lot of points to win this game. So I like Harden to go under. Last thing I'll mention, Harden has shot just, like I said, I talked about his free throw attempts in this game. But if you go back to even last season, last 4 games all together, he shot just 3 free throws, and all those were in the same game. So, just kind of bodes well for, him not being able to score. I think Maxey probably has a big game, because he's the one that can score at all 3 levels, in my opinion. So I like Harden to go under 19.5 points, -115 right now. If you guys are looking for the best number, it is on Bet365.
Yeah, I think that obviously he's not the same player that he was when he was with the Rockets, right? And I think that's been years since that's happened for James Harden. And we've talked about he's, dealt with a lot of injuries, whether it's been a hamstring, whether it's been a leg injury, something like that with James Harden. But it's crazy to see that at a point he was getting to the free throw line anywhere from 11 to 12 times a game, where in 2 games he hasn't gone to the free throw line, has James Harden. It almost seems like he used up all this juice in game one for the Sixers as far as points win. But I think that you bring a great point about Tyrese Maxey kind of being that next guy, the next scorer after Joel Embiid. Last game, he finished up with 33 points, Tyrese Maxey, if I'm not mistaken. But they started double teaming Joel Embiid, and that opened up opportunities for guys like Tyrese Maxey to take advantage of that. And James Harden, I still think that he's a great player, obviously, but obviously, like you mentioned, he has lost a step. So it's more of a guy that he's in a facilitator role. And if he's able to knock out his shots, great. He's not that same guy that can get to the basket anymore and get to the free throw line like he used to be able to. So, yeah, it's Joel Embiid, number one, that's going to get the points, and then it's Tyrese Maxey. Have the conversation about Tobias Harris, and then I think it is James Harden, ranked there with Tobias Harris. So under 19 and a half. And I think that's another great point that you brought up, that the Sixers are really relying on their defense in this series, where we've seen the Nets only put up 101 points and what was it, 84 in game two. That they don't have to go out and score 115 a night for them to win ball games. They did it in game one. That was because they had a great shooting night from three-point line led by James Harden. But we saw it in game two is that they can win ugly as well and just rely on their defense. And they did that in the second half. So as far as Harden goes, yeah, I can definitely get behind that for sure. I think it's Embiid and then it's Maxey for the Sixers. All right. So for my next player prop number 2, let's go over to the game between the Kings and Warriors game. Kevon Looney, I think last week, but that one quite didn't get there for me. But I'm going to go back to it tonight. Kevon Looney over 10.5 rebounds. And this one is a little bit juiced at minus 135 when I did pick it up. But I think a lot of this for me has to do with Draymond not being on the floor for the Golden State Warriors. Obviously, when Draymond is on, he's a guy that can do rebound game, 7-8 assists a game. There's no question. But in the 11 games without Draymond Green this season, Kevon Looney was averaging right at this number at 10.5 at 10.8 rebounds per game. But he has gone over this projection of 10.5 rebounds in 5 of the last 6 games without Draymond Green in the lineup. In the 2 games, the series versus the Kings, Draymond Green accounted for a total of 13 rebounds for the Warriors. On the other hand, Looney has grabbed 7 rebounds and 9 rebounds. So if we're going to talk about who's going to pick up those rebounds for the Golden State Warriors without Draymond Green in the lineup, I think it's going to be Kevon Looney. Also, let's not forget during the regular season, we talked about this a lot, that the Kings allowed the most, not most rebounds, but they allowed about 15.5 rebounds per game to that center position during the regular season. I think the defensive intensity should be up for the Warriors in this game, especially being at home. We've talked about this with our guy UCapper RC on his shows, that the defensive rating for the Warriors on the road and at home, it's a night and day difference. But I think Kevon Looney should have a big game on the boards here tonight. I'll bank on him to get me 11 rebounds here tonight, Chris.
Could not talk you off. If I watched, the only thing I'll add is, that you didn't not regurgitating what you said is, I watched the post-game interviews and, the reports are out that he understands how important he is to this team without Draymond being there to them. If he picked up an early foul in game one, he also picked up a second early foul in game one as well, found himself sitting on the bench. And he understands the magnitude of how smart he has to play. So I think, I think that the Warriors haven't gotten the greatest whistle throughout this series. Yeah. And I was just reading reports that, they're sending the whistle blowing, the whistle happy blowing referees in to referee this game tonight. I forgot who the refs are, but it's the referee that called the most foul calls.
I know it's Eric Lewis tonight. One of them. I think he's a crew chief.
He is one, yeah. And I forgot the other two, but so I think we see a lot of fouls calls, but I think the Warriors get the benefit of the whistle because they haven't in the first 2 games. So I like that. I was really close to playing this points plus rebound, at 19 and a half. Only need them to score 7.5 points, 8 points. And I think he probably gets that number as well with the increased usage that he'll get, some offensive rebounds as well. And, the desperation factor that, we always kind of talk about. The Warriors can't go down 0-3. This is the first time in Steph's career that he's actually been down 0-2. So I think you see a big, big sense of urgency tonight from, this Golden State Warrior team, even though they don't have, one of their fierce leaders in Draymond.
Yeah, 100%. All right, before we get over to our third player props, let me tell everyone about the SGPN merch store. We're brought to you by the SGPN merch store. And in honor of the NBA playoffs from now until the end of April, get 10% off of anything in the SGPN merch store when you use promo code SGPNBA. So head over to store.sportsgamblingpodcast.com and use that promo code SGPNBA to get 10% off of everything. I know the guys on the merch store just launched a Coach Mike Leach tribute T-shirt for him. He was a great friend of the Sports Gambling Podcast Network with Sean and Ryan. So they put out a shirt in commemoration of Coach Leach. So go ahead to the store, check it out. Also get 10% off if you do decide to buy that T-shirt commemorating, I should say, Coach Mike Leach. But there's a lot of great other stuff: NBA gambling podcast stuff, MMA, NHL, NASCAR. I mean, we have it all over there on the merch. So do yourself a favor, get over to store.sportsgamblingpodcast.com and use that promo code SGPNBA for 10% off. All right, Chris, take us over to player prop number 3, my man. What do you got? Nope, you're on mute.
Sorry about that. Player prop number 3. We're going to let's stay in the same game. Let's talk about Mr. Thompson, Mr. Klay Thompson. I like him tonight. I think we already kind of talked about the desperation spot, but I'm looking at his points plus rebounds. And the rebounds I've added because Klay, was called out. I know you probably remember that, about 3/4 way through the regular season, called out by Coach Steve Kerr, and really wanting them to kind of emphasize on, create more emphasis on him rebounding the basketball. And we've seen that. So the prop is 28.5 for his points plus rebounds. He's at back-to-back 21-point games this series. 37 and 38 minutes. So, he's going to be out there. 13 and 19 shot attempts. He's been flying over his 3-point prop. We know he's going to shoot at least 10 at home tonight. We mentioned the desperation factor. They can't go down 0-2. And also back-to-back 5 and 6 rebound games already in this series. So he's been actually, crashing the glass. I think we see more rebound opportunities. I couldn't talk anybody off playing his rebounds, straight. I think it's about a -120 right now at 5.5. I think he also could, picks up a few more of those rebounds. But I took his points plus rebounds at 28.5 tonight with no Draymond Green in a super, super desperation spot.
I think this is going to be the game tonight where you see the Splash Brothers shine. Like, you have to. Like, this is a game where you can't afford to go down 3-0, even though you are the Golden State Warriors. It doesn't matter. Like, you're back at home. Your backs are against the wall here. And this is the opportunity for both Klay and Steph to step up and let the guys that play defense on this team do that. But also going back to your point about rebounding, you have to, what's the word I'm looking for? I guess you can't allow the opposing team to have second chance opportunities, right? If you want to win games. And I think that rebounding is going to be a priority here tonight for the Golden State Warriors, whether it's led by Kevon Looney, whether it is Klay Thompson. Like you mentioned, he's been getting the rebounds as well. But you do trust Klay Thompson more back in the Bay Area in San Francisco on their home floor as far as scoring points as well. So I want to be surprised tonight if we see both of the Splash Brothers combined for 11, 12 3-point shots combined here tonight, because they're going to need it from those two guys here tonight. So yeah, I mean, if you and especially when we talk about the total of 240, like, you can't bet under. You have to get on the overs, right? Because the books are expecting points to be put up in this game as well as throughout the series as well. So yeah, I'm not going to argue against that. All right, let me go over to player prop number 3. I am going with game in the clip. I'm to go over 2.5 3-point shots made here tonight for the Clippers. First off, let's start with conversation about Kawhi Leonard in this game here, Chris. We know that he's going to get his. We saw in game 2 that they were starting to double team Kawhi Leonard and try to slow him down a little bit. I think that's where the opportunities really have opened up for shooters like Eric Gordon, and especially in the first 2 games, especially that first quarter. Actually, Eric Gordon has, I think, in that first game 1, he knocked down, I want to say 3 or he had like 12 points with a couple there. Off the start 2 as well. He's finished both the games with 12 points respectively, but most of those points have come for Eric. Got at least 3 3-pointers in each of the first 2 games. Game 2 of the series, the Suns, like I mentioned, were double teaming Kawhi Leonard. That opened up the shots for Eric Gordon. And Eric Gordon, it's been a volume thing from 3-point land. He's averaging, or he's attempted a total of 16 3-point shots in the first 2 games. I expect that to continue here tonight in game 3 in LA tonight. And at plus odds here, Chris, at plus 110 for a guy that's done it 2 games in a row, at least in the first 2 games of the series. I'm going to go back to that as well. Eric Gordon, over 2.5 3-point shots made at plus 110.
No way I could talk you off, three and a half makes on 8 attempts throughout the series so far, shooting 43 and a half, almost 44% from the 3-point line. I couldn't talk you off. Like you said, the double team's gonna come, and Kawhi is he's a willing passer. He's a guy that very similar to Kevin Durant. He's gonna make the best, make the right basketball plays. Not gonna try to dribble through 4 players. He's very efficient. He's very smart. High IQ guy. So Eric Gordon will be out there. You mentioned the minutes as well. 32 and 33 minutes for Eric Gordon in the first 2 games. So the opportunities are gonna come. If he's shooting 9 and 7, that there you have 16, and you divide that by 2. He's 8 up a game. You just need 3 to go in. I like it. Like your chances there.
Yeah, I mean, look, and again, without Paul George in this lineup, like he's been that, I think, that starting in that starting lineup in the absence of Paul George, and we know Paul George is not going to be in the series, at least for the Clippers in round 1. Even if they do get past the Suns here, we'll see if he does play in round 2. But Eric Gordon has kind of been that beneficiary without him in the lineup. So I'm going to continue backing him. I love it at a plus price as well. All right, Chris, let's get into our best bets for the Thursday night schedule in the association for these 3 playoff matchups. We crushed it yesterday. Hopefully we can continue that here with our best bets. Lead us off. Best bet. What do you got?
Spicy one. A lot of people might not like this one, but I'm going to stay in that same game because I wanted to make sure I got one from each game. And I'm looking at Devin Booker. I'm going under on Mr. Devin Booker tonight. Under 39 and a half points, rebounds, and assists. This is very similar to, I think what we saw last game with, I talked about this, Jimmy Butler, right? Like like it's kind of like we talk about zigzag theory, right? And I think it's the same thing for these players. First, I'm gonna fade the great player in the zigzag theory. He had just coming off a game, 38 points, 9 assists, and 1 rebound in game number 2. Absolutely dominated this team. So, the playoffs are about adjustments, and I'm pretty sure Coach Ty Lue will make sure that, even if, somebody beats him, probably won't be Devin Booker. Maybe Kevin Durant is the guy that has, the super big game, and, he's the best player on the floor. So, in my opinion, so I think that, it could be a Kevin Durant game. It's a lot of things that could go, could work in Devin Booker going under today. But I'll say the Clippers play a little bit better defense in this game than they played in the last game. They gave up 123 points. I think, they have to kind of lock in on the defensive end because I don't know if they have enough offense. So I think, the defense comes down. And then I just kind of go back and I look at Devin Booker in general. In 15 career playoff games, he's averaging 24 points, 5.5 rebounds, and 3.9 assists. So good for about 33 points, rebounds, and assists combined. So this number is, extremely high for, and I think it's, kind of inflated based on what he did in the last game. Yeah. And then he just doesn't have the greatest track record as well, against the Clippers, specifically playing against the Clippers. So in 9 career games versus the Clippers on the road, he is just 2-9 to the over on this number. So 7, you could say 7 of 9, he's gone under this number. So I just think that you see other guys kind of step up. We know the bench has been kind of picked on throughout the series, saying that they, can't get the job done. And I think they kind of, they just slow Devin Booker down a little bit and say, hey, let's see if we can make somebody else beat us like Chris Paul, right? Let's see if we can make Okogie beat us, right? So Devin Booker under 39 and a half points, rebounds, and assists, best bet of the day. Minus 115 is where you can get the best number on Bet365 because this is juice to the under. So the books, maybe some agreement with me there that, numbers just a tad bit too high for Devin Booker tonight.
Definitely ballsy with Devin Booker. But you laid out the stats there, right? I think we're not all waiting for, Kevin Durant has been pretty good, at least in, the second half of game 1 and in game 2, right? But we're waiting for that Kevin Durant statement game, whether, he comes out and scores 40 points for the Phoenix Suns. It could be tonight, and where it's Devin Booker doesn't have to do a lot offensively for this team. But we know that Devin Booker and Kevin Durant are going to be out there. I think that the Phoenix Suns realize that, hey, let's just put him out there for 40 plus minutes because we don't really have a bench right now. Campaign has been out the first 2 games with the back injury. Terrence Ross hasn't looked very good. So you have to rely on those 2 guys. But I'm expecting more out of DeAndre Ayton at some point, whether it's tonight and that's Devin Booker takes a backseat here tonight, or Devin Booker could still have a big game. He could go 28-8 and 2 rebounds or whatever the case might be and still get under this number. So I'm expecting Kevin Durant to have a big night here tonight, where I think that maybe Devin Booker doesn't have it as an efficient night as he's had, at least in game 2. So yeah, definitely contrarian, but I like the angle for sure. All right, for my best bet, since you went contrarian, I'll be the square for the best bet here tonight. I got to go with my guy, Steph Curry, man, over 29.5 points here tonight. And again, look, you don't have Draymond Green. Your backs are against the wall. I think this is going to be the night where we probably will see Steph Curry put up 40-plus points here tonight, in my opinion. And he's going to have to, right? We talked about your angle about Klay Thompson having to have a big scoring night and rebounding the basketball as well. For me here tonight, I talked about when we talked about with Klay Thompson is I think the Splash Brothers, are going to have a big night scoring the basketball, whether that's, being efficient from scoring from beyond the arc, where we wouldn't be surprised if both of them combined for 12 to 14 3-point shots made. But Steph Curry is the one guy in this lineup that can create his own shot. I know Klay Thompson may or may not be that guy, depending on how you kind of look at him. I think Jordan Poole may be that other guy, but outside of that, it's really, I think Steph Curry's the one player that we know what he does from beyond the 3-point line. He can get to the basket at will. He can get to the free throw line as well. But I think tonight is going to be the Steph Curry MVP show here tonight. So I laddered this up to 35 plus, where it's at around plus 195. 40 plus was close to 5-1. If you think that he has a really big scoring night, I sprinkled a little bit on that as well. But I think that, again, if the Golden State Warriors want to win here tonight, it's going to be on the back of Curry, especially on the offensive end. So Steph Curry over 29.5 points. I'm sure it's up to 30.5 at some spots as well. I think this is a game where he does have 35 plus here tonight, Chris. So best bet for me, Steph Curry over 29.5 points.
No way I could talk you off. First, like I mentioned this at the beginning. First time in his career, he's been down 0-2. No. I mean, we have no idea what's going through Steph Curry's head or how he'll respond. But I think he responds in a big way, man. We've seen them with their back against the wall, So I would only be able to endorse, and I would also probably take the latter, like you said as well, because he's not just going to get the 29.5 and stop, right? Like who else is going to be out there, scoring the ball for these guys? Not named Steph Curry and Klay Thompson. They get the most of the value. So I would only be able to endorse them, if I think we got another 2-0 on the best for sure tonight.
Yeah, I hope so, man. We did great last night with Drew Holiday. You've got the Devin Booker under PRA. I've got the over on Steph Curry points here tonight as our best bet. So hopefully we can keep it rolling here. Another great, scheduling timing wasn't great here tonight because this is a night where you need the multiple TVs, man. It's where you're going to have the 10 o'clock Eastern start for the Suns and the Clippers on one screen, and then you'll have I think it's the other way around. But the two West Coast teams are going to be those late starts, so you're going to need those multiple TVs here tonight for sure. But hopefully it's another great night of hoops. Hopefully we can continue putting some more money in the pockets of our listeners. Chris, anything else you want to get off your chest, my man, before we get out of here?
Nah, only thing else I'll add is that Devin Booker, while he has been a great rebounder, not a great rebounder, he's been a pretty good rebounder. I think only 2 rebounds in this series, so that's something to watch as well. It was also a reason why I kind of jumped on the PRA under, because not to say he can't come out here and grab, a few more rebounds, but in totality, when you're looking at that PRA, you need a lot, right? So even if he has a 30-point game tonight, right, who's to say that he combines for 10 rebounds and assists? So I just wanted to make sure I added that. Yeah. But I absolutely love all the looks that I gave out. I played all of them as well. And the difference between last night and tonight, I will say, is that we don't have the injury implications that we had. We were kind of tiptoeing around the injuries with Giannis yesterday. With who else was it? That was
John Moran. We took Desmond Bain.
Right. Yeah. So we don't have that as much. So I absolutely love these looks tonight. Let's cash all of them, man. Let's go.
Yes, sir. 100%. So, all right, that's going to do it for this episode of the Propcast. Make sure to follow Chris on Twitter, Crispy Capping 2 P's 2 N's. You can follow me on Twitter at SportsNerd824. Again, make sure to get over to the merch store. Use that promo code SGPNBA. Make sure you get your old-fashioned football gear as well before J Mark rips my head off. But don't do it for J Mark. Do it for his better half. She's been crushing it on the pod with him. So if you haven't already, check out the Old Fashioned Football podcast with J Mark and Mrs. J Mark. They're absolutely doing a great job there. And again, just download the app, man. SGPN app. all the great content happening across the network. If there's betting odds on it, we pretty much have you covered when it comes to our podcast. All right, we'll be back tomorrow for the propcast. We'll talk about, we'll recap what we saw on the Thursday night schedule in the association, and we'll give out some more player props as well for the Friday night schedule. Chris, thank you, my man. We'll be back tomorrow, like I mentioned. Good luck with your bets here tonight. Let's break these books off and let it ride.